What if the entire universe, everything from its creation to its destruction, was really just the result of a divine love story? I'm talking about this grand cosmic drama, right? A story of separation and reunion between two forces that are total opposites, but they can't exist without each other. So today, let's dive into the incredible story of Shiva and Sakti.
So what you're looking at here is so much more than just a beautiful sculpture. This is a depiction of Shiva and Sakti, and right there in their embrace lies the key to a foundational story in Hindu mythology, a story about the very nature of existence itself.
Okay, so who are Siva and Sakti? Well, in Hindu philosophy, they're basically the two fundamental principles behind, well, everything. You've got Siva, who is Purusha. Think of him as pure consciousness. He's the static part, the silent, unchanging observer that's always there but doesn't really do anything. And then you have Sakti. She's Prakriti, the complete opposite. She's all dynamic, creative energy. She's the force that actually makes things happen, the one who brings the whole universe to life. The key thing to get here is that one just cannot exist without the other. They're a package deal.
But, their story isn't some simple fairy tale. It actually begins with a huge conflict, a forbidden love that quite literally tore the cosmos apart. And this is where we first meet Sakti in her first incarnation, as a woman named Sati.
So Sati was the daughter of this incredibly powerful patriarch, a guy named Daksha, and she went completely against his wishes and chose Shiva as her husband. See, Daksha couldn't stand Shiva. He saw him as this wild, uncivilized ascetic, basically a mad maniac who was completely unworthy of his daughter. And this little family dispute, it's about to become a full-blown cosmic crisis.
The whole thing just explodes during a great sacrifice that Daksha organizes. First, he plans this huge event, invites every single god and king you could imagine, but he deliberately leaves Siva off the guest list, just to publicly humiliate him. Sati goes anyway, probably hoping to defend her husband, but instead she's forced to just stand there and listen as her own father unleashes this torrent of insults. She can't bear it, this profound dishonor, so she makes a devastating choice. She renounces her body and dies right there on the spot.
And Daksha's insults were just so personal and cruel. This quote here really gives you a feel for it. "O ye the assembled one, listen to my son-in-law's qualifications. He is older in age than my own." He was attacking the very core of who Shiva was, right in front of his wife. This was the insult that shattered the divine order.
Sati's death unleashes this wave of unimaginable grief, and the cosmic consequences are just massive. This is what happens to a universe when it suddenly loses its divine energy. Siva is completely and utterly shattered. He's so overcome with grief that he just retreats from the world entirely, falling into what the text calls his deepest yoga. He pulls all his power back, severs all connection to the universe, and becomes totally inert. The consciousness of the universe just switches off.
And this brings us to a really fundamental question, right? It's the very heart of this whole story. What happens to the universe when consciousness has no energy to act? What happens when Shiva is without his Sakti? And the results? It's absolute chaos. I mean, with Siva totally checked out, the whole balance of power just collapses. You have demons taking over the world, the celestials are literally driven out of heaven, evil, sin, and vice are just dancing all over the universe. But maybe the most crucial part, the work of creation comes to a dead stop. A standstill. Without that union of these two forces, existence itself just grinds to a halt.
This is such a powerful way to see the transformation of Shakti's power. On the left, you see the balanced, harmonious, divine union. But with Shiva withdrawn, her energy, when it does appear, is untamed and, honestly, terrifying. On the right, you get this description of her as Kali, with a garland of heads and a tongue dripping with blood. That's what energy unmoored from consciousness looks like: wild, fearsome, and destructive.
So, how do you fix a broken universe? The gods realize there's only one way forward. They have to reunite Siva and Sakti. And so begins this desperate quest to reawaken a grieving god and bring balance back to the cosmos.
The path to healing the cosmos really happens in 3 key stages. First, Sati is reborn as Parvati, the daughter of the king of the mountains. Then, the gods, who are getting pretty desperate, send Kandarpa, the god of love, to try and break Siva's meditation. Yeah, that doesn't go well. Siva, enraged at being disturbed, opens his third eye and just incinerates him. So finally, it's Parvati's own unwavering devotion and penance that eventually breaks through Siva's grief. He awakens, they're married, and the divine union is finally restored.
Okay, so that's the epic story. It's an amazing tale. But what does it all mean? Because this isn't just a myth. It's a really profound philosophical allegory about the very fabric of reality. All right, this is where it all clicks together, where the story maps directly onto the philosophy. Think about it, Sati's death and Siva just withdrawing from everything, that shows us that consciousness without energy is totally inert. The universe literally can't function. And the world falling into chaos? Well, that's a pretty clear picture of what happens when you don't have that union of spirit and matter. Only destruction can thrive. So the marriage of Siva and Parvati, that's the grand finale, the big takeaway. Their reunion shows that these two principles absolutely have to be together for creation, for order, for existence itself to even be possible. You know, it's all summed up so perfectly in the source material. Purusha is apparently non-existent in the universe without Prakriti. In other words, consciousness needs energy to act. Spirit needs matter to manifest. They are two inseparable halves of a single cosmic whole. So this incredible story frames the entire cosmos as this intricate, beautiful dance between two fundamental forces, consciousness and energy, stillness and action. And it kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. Where do we see that same cosmic dance playing out in our world, and maybe even in our own lives today?